And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome aboard. I'm National Weather Service Meteorologist Peter Chan with your Alaska Marine Weather Outlook on this Sunday, July 6th, 2025. We start with the sea ice, and it continues to gradually melt off here across the Chukchi and Beaufort Sea coastlines. Fair amount of open water now from Kotzebue Sound out into the heart of the lower Chukchi Sea. Of importance, though, we've had some very warm temperatures along the North Slope, Brooks Range. And these warmer temperatures, it's helped to accelerate the melting along the coastline. But there is going to be a cold front coming in off the Arctic Ocean, moving from north-northwest to south-southeast. And this is going to cool down temperatures considerably across the northern coastline and Arctic coast here as we get into Monday night, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Some temperatures that have seen readings 70s, 80s, even near 90 degrees will be a good 25 to near 30 degrees colder before midweek. And here comes that front late tonight. The leading edge of it, it's just going to kind of seep southward. It's not a fast-moving front, but it will tend to turn all the winds toward a northerly direction as it makes progress south. Meanwhile, in the Gulf, we continue to have an area of low pressure in the western Gulf, just northeast of Kodiak Island, south of the Seward Peninsula, or the Kenai Peninsula, and this trough is a focus for areas of rain or rain showers. Another little impulse coming northward may enhance some of the showers over the southern panhandle on Monday. Low pressure out there toward the central Aleutians will continue eastward on Monday afternoon. The front in the north makes progress. By Monday afternoon evening, it'll be down along the spine of the Brooks Range, passing through the Bering Strait. And continue to see just a general broad area of low pressure in the mid-levels of the atmosphere circulating with the surface lows down here back off of the Kenai coast, and another little wave coming up from the North Pacific toward Haida Gwaii Monday afternoon and Monday night. For Tuesday, kind of just a lingering trough along the Gulf Coast, maybe not quite the rain action. In the north, the front is going to stall out across the interior mainland, but make a little further progress south into the Bering Sea. Northerly winds will definitely be strongest here. Chukchi Sea, Bering Strait, some 25-knot winds there on Tuesday. And as this low works its way east-northeastward, the energy is going to shift up into the Gulf, and this system is going to actually be quite moist and bring a round of moderate to locally heavier rainfall in northeastern Gulf Coast into the Panhandle. Especially the southern Panhandle could pick up some little heavier rainfall Thursday into Friday, and this front will be accompanied by perhaps even some lower gale force wind gust as it works its way north and eastward for Thursday and Friday. In the meantime, for the Panhandle inner channels, southeast winds 20 to 25 knots, Dixon entrance, waves 6-8 feet. Inner channels, Clarence Strait on up through Lynn Canal and Stevens Passage. Southeast winds 10 knots, waves foot or two. Outer coast off of Sitka, Port Alexander. South winds 10 to 15 knots coming around to the east outside of Yakutat Bay, Cape Suckling. Waves generally 4 or 5 feet. And then for Tuesday, look for south-southeast winds 15 to 20 knots, inner channels. Waves 3, maybe as high as 4 feet, Dixon entrance. Outer coast, generally westerly winds on Tuesday at 15 knots and waves 5 or 6 feet. Now along the northwestern Gulf, rather variable winds because we have this weak trough and area of low pressure out toward Kodiak Island. So southeast winds to 10 knots within that wider expanse of Prince William Sound, waves a couple of feet there. But outside of Hinchinbrook entrance to Kayak Island and off the Kenai coast, variable winds 10 knots and waves 3-4 feet. Winds will generally be southerly across Cook Inlet, 15 to 20 knots with waves 3 to 4 feet. On Tuesday, still variable winds out here, Hinchinbrook entrance and Prince William Sound at 10 knots, waves maybe a couple of feet within Prince William Sound, 3-4 feet outside of Hinchinbrook entrance. And then a bit more of a mixed bag of winds because of where the low is situated. West-southwest winds, lower Cook Inlet. But as we go up off of Anchor Point to upper Cook Inlet, winds will be south-southwest at 15 to 20 knots with waves 3 to 4 feet. Winds will be variable on Monday in the vicinity of Kodiak Island, 10 to 15 knots, waves 3 to 4 feet. Generally west-northwest winds 10 to 15 knots out of Bristol Bay and east of Chicknick and Sand Point, but variable winds only around 10 knots as we trail out either side of the Alaska Peninsula Monday. And then on Tuesday, winds should generally be south-southwest 20 knots in the vicinity of Kodiak Island, waves 4 to 5 feet there. Still southwest 10 to 15 knots, Bristol Bay and east of Chicknick, turning though back around to the southeast to east around 15 to as high as 20 knots off of False Pass, because again we have that next area of low pressure trying to extend out into the North Pacific from the central eastern Aleutians. And for Monday, you can see the low circulation here near the central Aleutians. So easterly winds ahead of it as high as 25 to 30 knots south of Unalaska and through Nikolsky. And then on the backside, winds turn out of the north-northwest at 15 to 20 knots. For Tuesday, we still have the influence of that low in the general vicinity. East-southeast winds to 20 knots around Unalaska, kind of variable 10 to 15 knots at Nikolsky. On the north side of Adak and Atka, north winds 15 to 20 knots. On the south side, look for winds to be more northwest to west at 15 to 20 knots. And on Monday, west winds within Kuskokwim, Bristol Bay at 15 knots, waves just a couple of feet. Those winds become northwesterly, St. Matthew and along the lower Yukon coast up through the wider expanse of Norton Sound there between Nome and Stebbins. 15 knots with waves of 3 feet, just variable winds around 10 knots and a foot or two waves in the Pribilovs. And then for Tuesday, southwest winds of 10 knots into Bristol and Kuskokwim Bay. But you can see that northward shift of the winds because of the front coming down and then stalling out in this region. North winds of 15 knots along the Yukon coast up through Norton Sound with waves 3 to 4 feet. Strongest winds in the cycle, Monday into Tuesday, will be Chukchi Sea and Bering Strait, northwest winds, upwards of 25 knots. As we come up along the upper portion of the Chukchi Sea coast to Point Lay, Wainwright, Utqiagvik, to Prudhoe Bay, north winds 15 knots, falling off to 5 knots there toward Kaktovik. And on Tuesday, again, cold air is going to be pouring southward across this region as a result of that frontal passage. Generally north-northwest winds around 10 knots along the Beaufort Sea coast. Ice, maybe waves a foot or two where there's open water. Still, winds holding up across the lower Chukchi Sea through the Bering Strait. North winds 20 to 25 knots, waves 4 to 6 feet. That will also impact and be just off the coast there of Wales and Port Clarence, as well as on the north side of St. Lawrence Island.